between Yaakov and Esav. They have this meeting that Baruch Hashem ends up good. There is no confrontation. Then they depart, each one to his place, and the Torah ends up telling us that Esav moves to the land of Seir, and the Torah tells us about the descendants of Esav. More or less, if you follow it there in last week parasha, you see that he also has like 12 tribes. And in one chapter, we're going to get all the description of Esav's descendants, of Esav Toledot, when for us, Am Israel, Yaakov's Toledot, start being described on this parasha, and they're going to end, I don't know when, like they are until today. Like the Torah really focuses on Am Israel, just mentions the descendants of Esav and leaves them there. This is not the story that the Torah is about. So the parasha of today is about Yaakov Avinu, that he's Vayeshev be'eretz megurei aviv. He settles in the land of his father, of Yitzchak, which is in Eretz Israel. And we know all the trouble that is coming on Yaakov. We mentioned last week how Chachamim even criticized that attitude of Yaakov to wanting to relax. And Chachamim say, what do you want? It's not enough for tzaddikim that you are going to relax in the world to come. In this world is a world of action, is a world of creativity, a world of where you look to build, not just to settle and rest. No, this is not why we are in this world. This is a world to do things, to build, to create. So the parasha, I'm going to tell you very fast what it's about, and then we're going to go deeper. Tells us about Yaakov and his family. The Toladot seem to be mentioning one of the children of Yaakov, Yosef, and then on the previous parasha, there was already a list of all the children of Yaakov, but here the focus is with Yosef and what happened with Yosef. The Torah describes how this relationship between Yosef and his brothers is a little bit complicated because the Torah explicitly tells us that Yaakov loves Yosef more than the others, that he makes him a special cloth and he didn't do the other things that happen there, that Yosef speaks bad about his brother, that Yosef shows off in front of his brothers, he tells them about the dreams. Some details that the Torah tells us bring this relationship to be a very bad one. These brothers hate Yosef to the point that when Yosef is sent by his father to look, how are they doing? The brothers want to kill him. The brothers end up throwing him to a pit. Yosef is sold to a, how you say, caravan, to a shayara, to a group of people, caravan that passed by, not very clear who is selling Yosef. Yosef is brought down to Egypt. Then the Torah comes to tell us about another one of the brothers, that is Yehuda. And Yehuda, that stays away from his family, marries a Canaanite woman, has 3 boys. The first one is married to a woman called Tamar. He dies. Then according to the tradition of that time and the laws on the Torah later, the second son is given to Tamar to build the name of the deceased brother. This second son is also dying, and this table brings me down. Sorry for the girls in Zoom. Okay. This second son is also marrying Tamar, also dying without having left any children. Yehuda has a third son. The rule would say that he has to marry the third son with Tamar, but he tells Tamar, let's wait until he grows. He grows, but he doesn't give him to Tamar because, a father that already lost 2 boys that married one woman is afraid that the third one, if he marries her, is going to die as well. So he doesn't give his third son to Tamar. She has to worry for herself because she has to sit at home as a widow. She's not allowed to build a life, to marry somebody else. She has to wear specific clothing of a widow and sit in her father's house waiting to be given this third husband, and she's not. So she acts by herself. I hope to have time to go a little bit into that episode. And she makes things that Yehuda, her father-in-law, ends up having relations with her. She's pregnant, and Yehuda didn't know that he was with her because she dressed as a woman of the street, as a prostitute. And at the end of the day, when Yehuda finds out that his daughter-in-law, that was supposed to sit at home as a forbidden wife for anybody else, is pregnant, he declares she needs to be executed, to be burnt to death. And she has the way to prove that he's the father, but she doesn't. She sends him the proof, and it's on him to decide if he wants to recognize him or not. He does. So it's a very interesting episode where two individuals, Yehuda and Tamar, are really showing a very high level of greatness. I hope to have time to relate to that a little bit. After this, the Torah goes back to Yosef. Yosef is being sold to the house, to a person that is the person in charge of execution in the jail of Paro, Potiphar. The Torah tells us how Yosef is being very successful, and very soon he escalates position, and Potiphar really trusts Yosef, and he lets him be in charge of everything at his household, besides of his bread that he eats, or according to other interpretation, of course, only his wife is out of reach for Yosef. Like he can handle everything. We find the first case of I forgot the word, sexual harassment in the Torah. In this case, is the woman harassing the man. So Potiphar's wife wants Yosef to be with her, and she tries very hard. And Chachamim call Yosef a tzaddik. Many of them give Yosef the title of tzaddik because of this extraordinary strength that Yosef had to stand against this temptation, this Yetzer Hara, a man that is himself alone without his family, and he rejects her. She blames him. He is being thrown to jail. In jail, we see also Hashem's blessing with Yosef, how Yosef is successful, and how they love him, and how at the end he is the one that is going to help two of the ministers of Paro that are put in jail to and understand the dreams that they had. So if we have time, we will get to the end. If not, I will try very much, Be'ezrat Hashem, next week when we speak more about Yosef, to summarize the parts that we are not going to be able to do today. So I'm going to focus mainly on the first part of the parasha. If you want, you can go back at the beginning of the parasha, Parashat Vayeshev, on the chapter 37, page 199 on our Chumashim that have the translation in English. Yes, so I also brought my other Chumash where I have some Mefarshim, because I wanted to expose you to some of the Mefarshim. The parasha starts, as we said, describing as a situation. Yaakov's family has settled in Eretz Canaan, and after all what they suffered in the house of Lavan, we would expect perhaps some quiet, some good time, but that's not the case at all. And the problems now are internal problems. There are problems inside the family, at home. So when the Torah describes us about the Toladot of Yaakov, Toladot usually is translated as descendants, but Toladot, according to some rabbis, also could mean what happens to Yaakov. Especially the Torah speaks about Toladot whenever there is a geographical change, like something new, a new period of time in the life of Yaakov. And the Torah tells us that Yosef, ben 17 shana. Yosef, at the age of 17 years, was a shepherd with his brothers by the flock, but he was a youth with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph would bring evil report about them to their father. This pasuk, the second pasuk on this chapter, is really telling us about Joseph, and few things we find about Joseph. First fact is that Joseph is how old? 17 years. It's important the Torah reminds us, tells us about the age of Joseph, because this is going to help us to calculate all the years of the family, or how long Joseph is being in jail, or how long it takes until the brothers discover who is Joseph. Like there is a possibility to calculate all what happens in Joseph's timeline, because the Torah tells us Joseph's age at this moment. So we know that he's 17. 17 years already tells us that he is, in his span life, a teenager. Joseph is a teenager, he's a young man. We know that. So then why, it says here, היה רואה את אחיו בצאן, he used to shepherd with his brothers the tzon, the flock, והוא נער את בני בלהה ואת בני זלפה. And he is a nar. What is nar? Nar is a child, is a young boy. So why is the Torah telling me again that he's a teenager? I already heard that he is 17 years old. So what is the Torah trying to tell me here with this new, is there a new information here? What do I get from the fact that it's telling me that he's a nar? Yes. That he behaved like a child. It speaks about his behavior, his maturity. Yes, and of course, our mefarshim are going to try to see, each one of them is going to understand this in a different way. Okay, so let's see, for example, what will Rashi say about the fact that he is a nar?
Rashi said that he was paying a lot of attention for his beauty.
Okay. Yes, so Moshe said, and I couldn't hear you at the same time. What did you say?
I said maybe it says that he's 17 and then it says childhood or youth or whatever to show that he's acting younger than 17.
That he's acting younger, or that he's really acting as a young. Rashi says, "Vehu nar shaya oseh ma'aseh naru," that he was acting these actions of a nar, of a teenager, but he's not exactly teenager in Rashi's word. Metaken besearo, memashmesh be'enav. He was in front of the mirror, like according to Rashi, give me a word for nar. How does Rashi understand nar? A person that is looking in the mirror and enjoying himself, how do you call that? Vain or narcissist. According to Rashi, well, Yosef is a narcissist. Yosef enjoys so much to look at himself in the mirror. Okay, so that's how he translates it. That's what we're trying to understand. For Rashi, doesn't speak, nar is not about being a teenager. Nar is more about focusing very much in superficiality. That perhaps it comes together with one facet of teenagers, of teen years. But Rashi focuses on that. It's very interesting. What do other mefarshim say? I'm not going to see all of them, but for example, Ramban Nachmanides says, it means that he is serving them. To be a nar is also to be a servant. That the children of the Shfachot, the children of Bilhah and Zilpah, that they were, let's say, a group by themselves. Yosef is the only son of Rachel. They would take advantage of Yosef. Hey, bring us a cup of water. Hey, you go and do that. Hey, you clean here. Hey, you did that. So they used him to be a nar, according to Ramban, was that they were taking advantage of Yosef's vulnerability in the fact that he was alone. He was the only son from Rachel, being with the whole group. According to Seforno, and this is the one that I was really interesting to see, Seforno, did I bring it? I left in my car. I had it printed in English, but I'm going to take from the Hebrew here. Seforno says, give me a second. והוא נער, ומפני נערותו חטא להביא דיבת אחיו, כי לא ניסה ולא התבונן לאחרית דבר, אף על פי שהיה אז משכיל מאוד, ושהיה אחר כך מורה לזקני הדור. So Sforno really focuses on the meaning of being a nar. So he says, yes, we know that he was 17, but the Torah is bringing us that he is a nar to explain to us the behavior of Yosef has to do with the fact that he is a nar. And what does it mean that he's a nar? It means that he is a teenager. Or what does it mean that he's a teenager? So he says, because he acted in this way, because of his teen years, he made the mistake. What mistake? The Torah is telling us that he used to come and speak bad about his brothers to Yaakov. You know, Dad, they did this. You know, Dad, they behaved in this way. You know, Dad, they didn't tell you. You didn't see, but they did this. So Sforno is saying, why did they behave it that way? That's not smart. Because Naruto. Because he's an adolescent. He's a teenager. And what does it mean to be a teenager? When I read this, I said, wow, our rabbis knew what we discovered today in the 21st century in neuroscience about teen years. And I'm going to explain myself now. He says, ולא ניסה, he didn't try, ולא התבונן, and he didn't look or reflect לאחרית דבר. What does it mean אחרית דבר? Consequences. He wasn't able to see the consequences of his actions. He acts the way he acts, the way he feels in the moment. Isn't that to be a teenager? Isn't that to be a teenager? He said he didn't look at the consequences. אף על פי, and this is amazing, Sforno says, אף על פי שהיה אז משכיל מאוד. Even that he was extremely, extremely wise and smart. He was a very smart guy, a very intelligent guy, but he was a teenager. And teenagers can be brilliant, but they have a problem that they are not able of recognizing, of identifying the consequences to their actions. You know, since the discovery of the MRIs, the ability to see inside our bodies with magnetic resonance magnetic. So our scientific has been able, and doctors and educators have been able to understand better what happens in the brain of the teenager. And then they learn that the prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that develops the last, which is the part that is responsible for decision making, to understand that my decisions have a consequence, to understand that if I'm in a supermarket and I want to take the chocolate, and if I do that and run away, it's very cool, but it will have consequences if I get caught. And if I drive 100 miles per hour like a crazy, it feels very, very exciting, but it can have very bad consequences if I get caught or I can get killed or whatever. That's how teenagers act. And they use more, they think more, that's very interesting. They think more using the amygdala, that is the part of the brain responsible for emotions. They use that part more than the frontal part that thinks with logic. This is going to cause you this. Yosef, think. The fact that you come and you speak about your brothers is going to make them hate you. It's not good for you. And we're not speaking about if it's right or wrong to speak Lashon Hara. We all know it's bad to speak Lashon Hara. But he didn't even think. It's not convenient for you. You are the only one. You want to have them in your team. You want to be your friends. So I think this is unbelievable how the Torah is telling us this and how Chachamim also understood that. So I want to go a little bit, repeating the Pasuk again. So we're in the second pasuk of the parasha. So Yaakov was 17 years, sorry, Yosef was 17 years old. Hayar ro'eh et Echab was a shepherd with his brothers by the flock, but he was a youth with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Dilpah. If you can see that, the translation here took more with what Radak said, that he was a youth with them, that he was like, perhaps they treated him as a young boy, his father's wife. And Yosef would bring evil reports about them to their father. So Yosef would come and bring evil reports. Chachamim tell us that it was Lashon Hara. It wasn't Hotzaat Shemra, which means what he came and told Yaakov was true. He didn't invent, he didn't speak bad about them because he wanted to speak bad about them, but he brought things that he saw that happened. Now, Chachamim, some of them would say that he spoke about the children of Leah, that they mistreated Bnei Ashfachot, the children of the servants, and others, like Ramban says, no. He spoke bad about the children of the servants. Like Ramban tries to see that Yosef's actions are going to make all of them to be his enemies. That's why he says, with these boys, he acted in this way. With these boys, he acted in that way. With the children of Leah, Yosef is showing off. He's telling his dreams. With the children of the Shfachot, he's speaking bad about them in a way that he has all of them as his enemies. Because if not, says Ramban, if he only spoke bad about the children of Leah, whenever the children of Leah want to kill him or throw him to the pit, we would expect the others to come and defend him. But they don't do that. They're all together in their hatred against Yosef. Now, let me ask you a question. If you go and you speak bad to your dad about your brothers, right? What does it mean about your relationship with your brothers? Like I come and I tell, Dad, they didn't treat me nice. Dad, they make me do that. Dad, they did this. And I know that perhaps some of you here in the room or in the Zoom know other Perushim. Like Rashi and the Midrash speak about other things that he spoke, that they ate ever minachai, that they did things that were wrongly. But I cannot focus on all the Perushim that we have. But what does it mean about their communication? Yosef and his brothers, what didn't Yosef do that he could have done? He could have talked to them. Why don't you speak with them? Why don't you tell me, hey, I don't like this. Don't treat me like this. Be my friend. Perhaps he tried, perhaps he did, but there is no communication. Far from communicating with them, Yosef comes and speaks to his father about them. Now, this has two very bad consequences. The first one is that the brothers and Yosef keep distancing themselves more and more and more. But the second consequence also, so imagine, if the brothers have something bad to tell the father about Yosef, not something bad, they want to tell the father, look, Dad, Yosef is really doing ABC, not even as a Lashon Hara, but they want the father's help. They cannot do it because the father is already getting some information from the other side. It creates a lot of rupture in the communication, in the relationship between them and Yosef, between Yaakov and them. Everything becomes very, very broken in Yaakov's family. I continue. And the Pasuk continues on Pasuk Gimel. Like the Torah is bringing one after the other the different factors that are going to bring the tragedy that is coming. And all of these factors are mistakes, are human mistakes. So we saw the mistake of Yosef, the mistakes of the brothers perhaps, and now the mistake of Yaakov. Pasuk Gimel. וישראל אהב את יוסף מכל בניו כי בן זקונים הוא לו ועשה לו כותונת פסים. Now, Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons, since he was a child of his old age, and he made him a fine woolen tunic. We can stay in this pasuk for the whole hour, and it's not going to be enough. Yaakov אהב את יוסף מכל בניו כי בן זקונים הוא לו. What does it mean? That, okay, first of all, the Torah is trying to explain to us why did Yaakov love Yosef more than his children? I want to ask you, is that normal to love one child more than the rest? Who says no? Who says no here? You say no. Okay. You say yes. What do you say?
I say yes, it's normal, but not that you necessarily love the youngest.
It's normal to love one child more than the other. What do you say, Vlad?
For me, I can imagine loving one more than the other. I feel like maybe if my husband would like never showed.
Okay, good. So you are separating between your feelings, between what you feel towards your children, and between what you show to your children. Yes, Raquel. Okay, but the reason. Okay, wait. We're going to relate to that. Yes. Raquel says the Torah is bringing, the Torah is saying, the Torah is giving us a reason. He loved him more because he was his baby. You know what? Let me give you 10 different reasons why I could love one child more than the other. I could love one child more than the other because it's more similar to me. My personality, more affinity, more compatibility. I could love another because it's the opposite of me and it reminds me of his dad that I actually love so much. It could be that I love that child because that child is very strong. It could be that I love that child because he's very vulnerable. I could love that child because he really needs me more, because he has special needs. I could love that child because of his looks and I get very attracted to beauty. I could love that child more because he's really obedient. And everything I ask from that child, he comes and does it, and I don't have to struggle and like I do with all that. There is absolutely 1,000 reasons why I could feel more connected with the child. The only problem is, as Blanche said beautifully, I cannot show that. And actually, I have to help myself. I have to help myself to identify those feelings. Do I really love that child more? Or perhaps it's just easier for me to connect with that child. But at the end of the day, as you said, the love of the parents should be there for all their children. I remember when we were going to have our second child, I was pregnant with David, and you have your first one, it's all your life, all your world. And I was so worried. We used to have conversations with my husband. How are you going to do? We love him so much. How are we able to love another one? And it was really taking my sleep away. Until one day he said, I have it. We don't have to divide our love. The love of a parent multiplies itself. You have to multiply your love. And the same way you love this son so much, you will love the other one and the other one and the other one. And the love of parents could be there for all your children. Now, also it could be that you love a child very much during this stage because you love babies, or because you love teenagers, or because you love girls, or because you love boys. But we are not allowed to show that to our children. We have to be so careful, to the point to our Chachamim in the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat. They tell, I had on my notes, of course I forgot them in my car, but I can post the source, whoever wants to look for it later. They tell us, because of a piece of fabric, of a cloth, that its price was, let's say, 20 shekels, we went down to Egypt because of that. Because of that special gift that Yaakov gave to Yosef more than to the others, because he showed what he felt towards Yosef, it brought all what it brought. One thing brought to the other, and that hatred inflated itself more and more and more and more, to the point that they wanted to kill him. They couldn't handle Yosef. Now, I am going to make a small parenthesis here. I'm taking you out a little bit of this because it's very important when we study Torah that we realize that we need to be able to study Torah in two levels. There is two levels here. There is the national level and there is the personal individual level. So we know that the plan was already there from before. What was the plan? The plan was that Am Israel is going to go down to Egypt, to slavery, to suffer. How do we know that it was there? Hashem said it to Avram in Parashat Lech Lecha, in Berit Ben HaBetarim, in the pact Ben HaBetarim, already there before Am Israel is born, Hashem is telling him, but your children are going to be in Egypt for 400 years, and they're going to be oppressed, and they're going to be enslaved.
Do they know who or which generation?
What do you mean?
Do they know from Abraham's time? Did they know that it's Yaakov's generation that's going to have to go? Or it could have been...
No, they didn't know. But perhaps by Nevuah, like Yaakov at one point, later we see when Yaakov is about to come to Yosef to Egypt, he's very afraid. He knows that it's coming. It's about to happen. So we know from one side, we know that. From the other side, what the Torah is trying to teach us here, when the Torah is describing to us every one of the huge, but small mistakes that these individuals are making, they are causing it. They have bechira chofshit, they have free choice in their behavior. It doesn't matter that Am Israel needs to go to Egypt. Like Hashem could bring us to Egypt in 1,000 different ways, but they are causing it with their mistakes. So the Torah, from one side, we say, wow, our patriarchs, his children, tzaddikim. And some people study Torah in that level, oh no, we cannot understand, it's beyond us. And it's true. There are levels that we will never understand. At the same time, if the Torah is bringing it here, and this I learned from rabbis about a beautiful shiur about hashgacha pratit, about how Kadosh Baruch Hu runs this world. The Torah is bringing this here for us to learn that one mistake of ours in this level that seems like something small at home can really cause terrible, terrible consequences. And here we see in two psukim, we are getting the whole panorama, the whole picture, how different small things together are creating this terrible, terrible hatred among brothers that are going to bring to almost a fratricide, like they're willing to kill Yosef. They're willing to do that. Now, relating to what you said, just a second, Raquel, you said Yaakov loved him because he was a ben zekunim. It's not so much so, and Chachamim try to understand why is Yosef called a ben zekunim, because Yosef was very similar in age with some of the last children that Leah had. Issachar, Zebulun, Yosef, they're perhaps 2 years apart. They're very young at the same time. And also, who is born already? Who has been born? Binyamin. Binyamin is already here. So who is the Ben Zekunim? Is it Binyamin? But Chachamim, the Cheskuni, the Midrash tells us that the relationship between Yaakov and Binyamin was somehow difficult. Why? Every time I look at you, I remember how Rachel died. It brings me sadness, it brings me pain. So perhaps Yaakov is choosing to spend time with Yosef. So many Mefarshim will speak, what is Ben Zekunim? Is the son, it was very normal in ancient times that you chose one of your children to stay near you, to serve you, to be with you. Others will say, why is Yosef chosen? Because Yosef literally had very, very special talents. He had very special talents. Like Yaakov is not just choosing him because he's the son of Rachel. Yosef was brilliant. And whenever, imagine you have 3 children and you say, who wants to study with me? And he comes and he sits with you. Who wants me to tell him a story? He comes and he asks you a question. He wants to know more. And Yaakov sees Yosef is really the one that has it. And what did Yaakov learn from Yitzchak and Abraham? What did he learn? It doesn't matter if it's the firstborn and that you have to choose one. Like Abraham had to choose one. Yitzchak had to choose one. Perhaps Yaakov thinks that he needs to choose one to continue the legacy. Perhaps here is not only in the level of choosing a child because I'm connected, but it's about more than that. I'm choosing who is going to continue the legacy, or who is going, if not the only one, who is going to be the leader. So this is what is in the game here. Now, just a question to leave in your head so you connect later. Who is the son that is going to suffer this the most, that is threatened the most with the Yaakov giving this privileged attention to Yosef? Reuven. Reuven is the Bechor. Hey, hey, what's happening here? I'm supposed to be with you, Dad. I'm supposed to study with you. I'm supposed to be the one. So we can see there is many things at game here.
There's also a huge age difference between all these boys, right?
Not so much,
From
no,
the
no,
oldest to
not so much. No, Yaakov Avinu has them all during a period of time. Like Leah has one after the other, and then because it's from four mothers,
yeah.
so they are born. I don't remember the years, but I remember seeing. Oh, actually, they're close in age, not so much. Yes, Jen, you wanted to say something.
That mentioned that in this passage it says the name Israel. Is it because this what you said that this is going to be affect the nation?
Thank you for reminding me. Thank you for reminding me. So last week we spoke about Jacob and Israel in some level, but I want to bring another dimension. Some rabbis explain that the Torah is going to mention Yaakov whenever it speaks about his personal life, and Israel whenever it's about the nation, Am Israel. So here, even that's so beautiful, even that the Torah is speaking to us about what happens inside his house is particular, is me and my children. Is a father that is giving more attention, is favoring one of the children, but the Torah is telling him, hey, you are Israel, this is going to affect Am Israel. This is going to bring Am Israel to Egypt. This is going to move the history and the events in the way that they are going to happen as we see them. Beautiful. This is a very good remark that you have. Okay, now, Ben Zekunim, other explanation of Ben Zekunim. One is that he was the one that looked like Yaakov more, like was serving Yaakov more, that had the intelligence of sitting and studying with Yaakov, or he was the youngest before Ishmael, before Binyamin, but he cannot do it with Binyamin, so he does it with Yosef. Yes, Kathy?
I'm just saying that the way he said he liked him more, like he repeated itself. And he said
Yes,
definitely he liked him more, but the boys saw it that he liked him.
exactly.
He
So
didn't
we
do it
see,
privately. He did it like in front of all of them. It was very open.
yes,
But
yes, but why? Wait. Because before that it says, Ve'asalo kutonet pasim. And he made him a fine woolen tunic. So imagine you love yourself more than the others, but you just, the kids will feel it anyways. But keep it to yourself. Don't give him extra gifts. Don't treat him differently. Don't do more for them. You know what is the right way with our children? Can we treat them equally? Can we treat our children equally? We cannot. We should treat them uniquely. Not equally, but uniquely. Like if one is good in piano, I will buy a piano to that child. And if one needs glasses, I will go and give glasses to that child. And if one is good at gymnastics, I will bring a tutor for gymnastics. I need to be able to identify my children's strengths. But here it speaks more about a gift and what type of gift. When you wear something, it's very visible. It's very outwards. And also, it's kutonet pasim. It has lines. It's something that whenever you go here, you are going to be recognized. And we will see that. The Torah is saying that to us. Now, kutonet pasim, what does it remind you to make a kutonet for your son? It says that Yaakov asalo, that he made it by himself. It doesn't say that he ordered or he bought it. He made it. Who made the kutonet for her son? Who? Which mom do we know? Hannah. Hannah, she prays so much to have a child. When she promised, if I have a child, I'm going to offer him to work with Hashem in the Mishkan in Shiloh. So when he's 2 years old, she brings him to serve Hashem. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. And she makes a special kutonet. And every year when she comes to visit him, she brings him a new kutonet. Like she adjusted to his age. But it's a very motherly act the mother is doing. I forgot to say that I am very much bringing things from Dr. Abigail Rock, Zichrona Libracha. Like I heard recordings of shiurim that she gave. She's from Israel, and she passed away last year. So may this shiur be leilui nishmata. She really brought so many details. I never thought about Hannah. She brought this. She also reminds us what other thing could represent the kutonet pasim. The kutonet pasim could also represent status. it was something that children of leaders wore. Like in the Tanakh, we find who wore a kutonet like that with pasim, a cloth with pasim. Tamar, Tamar, the daughter of David Amelech. Amnon and Tamar, whenever it comes to her, the Tanakh says there that she was wearing a cloth with pasim. So it was a symbol of leadership. So it could be that Yaakov really is displaying what he feels. He is going to be the leader. And we're not saying what is screaming very, very loud. Perhaps in Yaakov's mind, who did he want to marry? Rachel. Who is my son? The one that I wanted, the one that I planned. So vulnerable, yes. Like, I found very often in families that they have to give special attention to one of the kids because of different reasons, special needs, illness, God forbid. Parents need to learn with all of that to be very, very sensitive to the other children. Because as much as they understand, they suffer. Because a child is a child, and a child needs his attention, a child needs to get whatever he needs, etc. So there is many more mefarshim about this tunic, what it represents. I think that Radak speaks about a tunic that is very long and really shows like a status. Okay, let's continue a little bit.
Butzi, sorry, can I interrupt? It's
Of
Dina.
course, Dina, yes.
Thank you. I'm just curious, like going back a little bit, why is it that we're like in our society, it's just being taught to like always praise each child? And because like when I learn Torah, I don't see like, I always see that one is picked. It's not about like all of them being so super special. And like you see Yosef is this incredible gifted child, and the others are just kind of okay, and they all do receive blessing from their father, but it's still like there's just that one child. Or so I'm always confused, like why we're trying to always make sure all our kids are like happy and praised. And I know you said the unique praise, that's definitely more in line with like what it just makes more sense to like be more unique to their needs and be more honest and
Yeah.
authentic.
Okay. Very good. And
But
I want to remind you something. Did you finish? Sorry.
yeah, I think so. I wrote it down because I wasn't sure. Yeah, so just like I guess it's hard for me, I think, to accept honestly that we're not all special and that we all, or maybe we are and I'm just not getting it. I don't know what it is.
Okay. No, I want to remind something. Perhaps it wasn't clear. We are speaking about mistakes.
Okay.
We're speaking about mistakes, not about the right
This
way
is
to
not
follow. We're not
okay.
speaking about
Wasn't the
learn
right way.
from this. I'm not saying learn from Yaakov. Praise one of your children. Only one of your children is special. But yes, you know what? I actually believe that one kid can be more special than the other. And I oppose this new attitude in schools that everybody gets a prize.
Right,
I'm
right,
not only
exactly.
the one that deserves it. Yes, there is people that are special. And as you mentioned, Yaakov at the end of his days is going to, that's the beauty of the brachot of Yaakov. He is able to look at each one of his children and tell them what is special about them and where they should even improve.
Yeah,
Because
that's good.
that's what is my job in my life, is to recognize who I am and what can I give to the world or where do I have to improve. But I repeat, we are speaking about mistakes.
Okay.
That's very important to remember. Also, when we spoke about Yitzhak favoring Yitzhak and Esav and Rivka favoring Yaakov, we spoke about and until now we're going to see that Yaakov is paying the price, and you will see. I wish I had the time. The Torah is over and over again with very subtle diukim, like words showing us, this is connected to that. Let's see if we can go a little bit further. So I'm going to Pasuk Dalet. His brothers saw that it was he whom their father loved most of all his brothers. So they hated him. So they had few reasons to hate Yosef. They could hate him because he spoke bad about them. They could hate him because later what's happening. But the Torah is telling it explicitly. The main reason why they hated him more is because they saw that their father loved him more. And I want to add something that doesn't have to do with this. Sibling rivalry is going to happen no matter what. It's going to happen even when I am the perfect parent trying to show attention to all of my children. It's going to happen because it's normal. Because, my brother did great in his test and my parents said kol hakavod, that he deserved, but that's already going to make me feel that they don't love me. So you have to be so careful not to add to that fire. And this sentence here, Pasuk Hey, I think I learned this from Rabbi Sachs, Zichrono Livracha, years ago. I didn't read it this year, but I remember reading one of his shiurim. It says on Pasuk Hey, sorry.
I don't have an answer for that. Is there something else I can help with?
How did Siri come here? I don't know. Okay.
Interesting question.
Okay, I'm not talking to you. so Pasuk 4, his brothers saw that it was he whom their father loved most of all his brothers. So they hated him. And pay attention to this. And they could not speak to him peaceably. They could not speak to him. If they would have been able to speak to Yosef and tell him, why? What do you think to yourself? Why do you walk around with that tunic? What do you think, you are better than us? Or if they could have been able to come and tell Yaakov, why dad? Why don't you give us also? That's not fair. They were not able to speak. They didn't speak. And when you don't speak, when you don't communicate, when you don't share what you are feeling with others, that resentment, that hatred keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. And this is what is going to cause what we saw later. Such terrible thing that you have a brother that is not acting properly with you and you don't talk to that brother, or you have a friend that she did this to you and you don't tell her. What is going to be the consequences of that? Of not sharing what you are feeling. Tell, I'm in pain. I'm in pain. This is hurting my feelings. This is not right. Why you are doing that? They were not able to communicate. And I think that's these 4 words in Hebrew, Velo yachelu dabero leshalom. And they couldn't speak with him leshalom, to make peace. If you speak, if you clarify, if you show what is your heart feeling, perhaps the other one is going to understand. Perhaps you will have a fight. Perhaps everyone is going to say, no, but you, but okay, bring it out, explain it. Because if you don't do it, what happens next is the terrible thing that is going to happen. I continue. Pasuk 5. Hey. ויחלום יוסף חלום ויגד לאחיו ויוסיפו עוד שנוא אותו. Yosef dreamt a dream which he told to his brother, and they hated him even more. He said to them, hear, if you please, this dream which I dreamt. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the middle of the field when, behold, my sheaf arose and also remained standing. Then, behold, your sheaves gathered around and bowed down to my sheaf. His brothers said to him, would you then reign over us? Would you then dominate us? And they hated him even more because of his dreams and because of his talk. He dreamt another dream and related it to his brothers, and he said, look, I dreamt another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars were bowing down to me. And he related it to his fathers and to his brothers. His father scolded him and said to him, what is this dream that you have dreamt? Are we to come, I and your mother and your brothers, to bow down to you to the ground? So his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. So we see that Yosef is having dreams of grandiosity, of greatness. And what is the problem here? Very similar to what happens with Yaakov. Yaakov loved Yosef and he doesn't hide it. Yosef has dreams of greatness and he doesn't hide him. He thinks that he needs to tell them. So Hashem is perhaps giving you some ideas in your head. Perhaps you're already feeling that you are supposed to be great, that great things are awaiting you. But do you need to share that with others? He's a teenager. Okay, that's one of the perushim. But yes, we will see. And every year I think I get so... you get so much reassurance from the Torah. At least I personally, this is the main message that I'm getting from this episode of the Torah, is that This is terrible what we're about to read, right? Everybody knows the story. What the brothers are about to do with Yosef, the way Yosef is acting, the way Yaakov acted. But what is the message that I get? That we are humans, we all make mistakes, even our greatest forefathers, even the 12 children of Yaakov, the ones that represent the 12 tribes. I am seeing them here in the Beta Knesset. We have them in big pictures. Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Yosef, Binyamin, Menashe, Ephraim, Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehudan. We are proud of them. How can we be proud of these people that acted in these ways? How?
They learn.
Because they learned. And this is what the Torah is about. The Torah is about teaching me, you make a mistake, okay, you're human. What do you do with that? What do you do with your mistakes? This is the main message of the Torah, of this parashiot of Bereshit. We are going to see a process of learning, a process of growth, a process of teshuvah. And every time I think about something terrible that somebody does, I don't know, in my family, in Am Israel, I bring myself always to think about Yosef's brothers. Like you have a fight with in your family, with somebody in your family, try to compare your problem with Yosef and his brothers. Try to compare what they did to you to what Yosef's brothers are doing to him. What is more terrible? Can exist anything more terrible of what they are doing to Yosef? And still, it's in the Torah, and they continue, and Am Yisrael is coming out from them, because the Torah is not about perfect human beings. It's about imperfect human beings that have permanently the willingness to keep learning and to keep improving their actions. So Yosef, I'm not going very deep into the dreams. There is so much symbolism that can be learned about the dreams. Yosef is already dreaming about sheaves of wheat, and they are shepherds. So what happens with Yosef's future in Egypt? He's going to be involved with food. These dreams are very significant. But still, he needed to keep it. Who did we learn that kept the dream to herself? Or the prophecy to herself? Rivka doesn't share even with Yitzchak she learned in the Bet Midrash of Shem Va'ever, in the prophecy that they gave her, that Shne goim bepitnechu, Shne leumim mimeach yetzeu, that you are having two nations that they're going to be, and one is going to be better than the. She doesn't say it. She doesn't share. Perhaps she understands. If I tell this to my husband, he's not going to get it the right way. Yosef should have understand that it's not healthy to bring. And what is the Torah telling me by this? That Yosef was a very, very, very imperfect person. Yosef is going to be called Yosef HaTzadik. It's becoming Yosef HaTzadik, but perhaps at the beginning, he was talented, he was special, he had amazing dreams, he had leadership qualities, but he was very imperfect. Not maybe. So you said a very important thing. Maybe he had to go through so much. And yes. And I remind myself always also, if you see one of your children that is suffering, that is going through something difficult, you know what? Say, it's good for him. He's going to learn. He's going to become stronger. He's going to become better. And pray. And we should pray that he learns from the journey, that we learn from our journeys. And again, because this is what the Torah is about. It's teaching us about becoming better and improving more and more. So what do? We have to make a second class on this parasha. Okay. Yes, if you see the words that are repeating itself here is sin'ah, is hatred, and ach, and brothers.
What's the word?
Is ne'u, sin'ah, is hatred. Yes.
Any other place in the Torah that has this harsh word, or
No, we have mitzvot. Lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha. You cannot hate your brother, but many of the mitzvot perhaps are reflecting what is happening here. Not to hate. So what happens now on the Aliyah Sheni? How much time more we stay here? 5 more minutes? Okay, I am in Shani, Pasuk 12. Sorry, before that, no, Pasuk 11, after he tells the dreams and Yaakov is rebuking. Yes? Okay. And Yaakov is rebuking um, Yosef, what do you think? Can I come with your mother to bow down to you? Your mother is not even here. She passed away. But Yaakov shamar et hadavar. Yaakov took this seriously in his heart. Yaakov is trying to make a voice of rebuke in front of the brothers. Perhaps Yaakov is starting to realize the damage that has been caused here among the brothers. And that's also something very interesting that I see here. So how many times we parents try to fix something with our children among themselves? We try to remedy situations, and sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. So Yaakov is telling Yosef, why do you say this? Why do you bring these dreams? It's impossible. He tries to minimize the tension, the damage, the hatred that exists already there. So look, Pasuk Yud Aleph, Vaikaneu bo echav. So his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Now, Pasuk 12, his brothers went to pasture their father's flock in Shechem, and Israel said to Yosef, your brothers are pasturing in Shechem, are they not? Come, I will send you to them. He said to him, here I am. And he said to him, go now, look into the welfare of your brothers and the welfare of the flock, and bring me back word. So he sent him from the depth of Hebron, and he arrived at Shechem. So again, Yaakov perhaps is trying to make amends, and he's sending Yosef. How is the pasuk in Hebrew says? ויאמר לו, לך נא ראה את שלום אחיך. Bringing the word shalom. Yaakov is trying to create some reconciliation when he sends Yosef to the brothers. If Yaakov is aware of the hatred, so perhaps that's what he's trying to do. Or perhaps Yaakov is not aware and is sending Yosef to a very dangerous mission, because the brothers have gone far away from home. Perhaps they are fed up with this Yaakov and Yosef relationship. Leave them there. Let's go. Let's be with ourselves. Like there is a division here. Yes, Yaakov is staying home with Yosef. Yosef is not working with them. Yosef is the one that is caring for his father, that is with him, and they go to take care of to work and take care of the sheep. Yaakov is sending Yosef. Now, on this next psukim, Yaakov sends Yosef. Yosef goes to where Yaakov sends him in Hebron, and what happens there? He doesn't find them. The story could end here. Yosef went as a good son to do what his father asked from him. He doesn't find his brothers. He comes back home. But what do we see here? Yad Hashem mamash. Hashem is sending or is putting there a person that some Chachamim say an angel, a malach. Ramban says doesn't have to be a malach. Is an emissary from Hashem. Hashem put him there on the right time, on the right place, with the right words. And look at this. Pasuk Tetvav. Vayimtzaeu ish. A man discovered him. He doesn't discover. A man discovers Yosef. What does it mean? So enigmatic. A man discovers Yosef. And behold, he was wandering in the field. The man asked him, saying, what do you seek? And he said, my brothers do I seek. Tell me, please, where they are pasturing. The man said, they have journeyed on from here, for I heard them saying, let us go to Dotan. So Yosef went after his brothers and found them at Dotan. So there is a man here that is going to make sure that even that the brothers have left the place, Yosef will go after them. And he tells them where they are. And he sends them, Yosef, to them. And it's farther to the house of Yaakov. So I am going to finish soon. They saw him from afar, and when he had not yet approached them, they conspired against him to kill him. And they said to one another, look, that dreamer is coming. So now come and let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits, and we will say, a wild beast devoured him. Then we shall see what will become of his dreams. Reuben heard, and he rescued him from their hand. He said, we will not strike him mortally. And Reuben said to them, shed no blood. Throw him into this pit in the wilderness, but lay no hand on him. Intending to rescue him from their hand, to return him to his father. And so it was. When Yosef came to his brothers, they stripped Yosef of his tunic, the fine woolen tunic that was on him. Then they took him and cast him into the pit. The pit was empty, no water was in it. They sat to eat food. They raised their eyes and they saw, behold, a caravan of Ishmaelites was coming from Gilead, their camels bearing spices, balsam, and lotus on their way to bring them down to Egypt. Yehudah said to his brothers, what gain will there be if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, but let our hand not be upon him, for he is our brother, our own flesh. His brothers agreed. Midianite men, traders, passed by. They drew Yosef up and lifted him out of the pit and sold Yosef to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. Then they brought Yosef to Egypt. Reuben returned to the pit, and behold, Yosef was not in the pit, so he rent his garments. Returning to his brothers, he said, the boy is gone, and where can I go? They took Yosef's tunic, slaughtered a goatling, and dipped the tunic in blood. They dispatched the fine woolen tunic, and they brought it to their father, and said, we found this. Identify, if you please. Is it your son's tunic or not? He recognized it and he said, my son's tunic, a savage beast devoured him. Yosef has surely been torn to bits. Then Yaakov rent his garments and placed sackcloth on his loins. He mourned for his son many days. All his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to comfort himself and said, for I will go down to the grave mourning for my son. And his father bewailed him. Now the Midianites had sold him to Egypt to Potiphar, a courtier of Pharaoh, the chamberlain of the butcher. So much we have here to learn, but I'm going to finish with few sentences. It's very interesting to learn about the different reactions and interventions of Reuven and Yehudah, what are the motives of each one of them and how they are acting. We don't have time for that. I just throw you the idea. If you see, there is a motive that it repeats itself over and over again in this paragraph, and it's the tunic, the tunic, the tunic. They see him coming with his tunic. They stripped him of his tunic and throw him to the boar. They take the tunic and they, according to one Mefarshim, it says that they tear it. First they break it. They break the tunic. And then they put it into the blood of a kid. I don't know if you remember, but this is really, this is so beautiful to really spend time on this. Do you remember what is the food that Rivka prepared to Yaakov when he was passing himself as a Esav with his father Yitzchak? She cooked, what did she cook? Check at home. Check. It was a kid. It was the same thing, like the lamb. And this is what they are doing here. They're putting the kutonet into the blood of the kid to show to Yaakov. And they tell Yaakov, Hakerna, let's see if you can recognize. And Yaakov was trying to, his father doesn't recognize him. There is so many similarities. And at the end, you know, they throw him to the pit and they're eating. They don't even have the compassion to feel the pain of his brother. The Torah here is not telling us that Yosef was crying. We will see that later. And Chachamim compare that moment when they're eating next to him to when Achashverosh and Aman, Vayeshevu lishtod ve'ayir Shushan navocha. They're sitting to drink after they made the decree for Am Israel. So as you see, you have a lot of work to do to finish learning this parasha. Thank you everyone for paying attention, for being here, and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Biton.
Thank you, Mrs. Biton.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Keep healthy, everybody. All the best. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Oh, I